Hey there, welcome to a Dassbear guide. This is going to be a guide, multi-part guide, focused at very new players. So if you are an experienced player and I missed anything, please leave a comment and tell me what I missed. That way that these new players can see it. I've had a lot of questions about very basic things. I'm just trying to help everybody out. So the first thing we're going to do, we're actually going to start with the tabs and work our way down. That's why it's going to be multi-part. It's going to take a long time to cover everything. But the first tab is going to be logistics. So logistics is going to show you everything that you have stockpiled and stored, your balance, and how much you need and things like that. So stockpile, you see the warehouse. That means if it's green, you have a stockpile. You have a reserve of these. If it's red, that means you don't. You need these. Now you see the green right here, though. That means that compared to what you're using, you're making 28.5 rifles a day positively. That means that, and eventually, you will overcome this deficit, and it will take about 131 days, what it's telling me at the current production. So if you look over here, this is your efficiency on the left side. So these yellow bars, so everything's at 50%, and motorized is going to be at 26%. You also see how many convoys you have. So then the bottom here, you have fuel prioritization. So it would say you're mainly going Army and you don't care about the Air Force and Navy, you can leave those on red. That means your fuel will mainly go toward the Army. We focus on them pretty much. This right here is your military factories and your naval dockyards. These should always be at 100%. So that means that we have some military factories that are not being used right now, and we have dockyards that are not being used, and we need to change that. This over here is going to be your resources, and if these are all green, that means you have plenty of them compared to what you're producing. So this is everything on logistics. If you look over here at the recruitment tab is going to show you reinforcements, upgrades, operations, and garrisons. Garrisons are what go into occupied territory or territory that you do not have a core over, and they hold it there for your country. Operations are going to be resources and equipment that goes toward your spies. Upgrades are what it says, upgrades. That means that if your army's using older equipment and you're making newer stuff, it's upgrading it slowly, and the old stuff is being stockpiled at that point. Reinforcements, these are units in the field or units that you are recruiting that are going to need reinforcements. So very important. You can change the priority. Usually I leave reinforcements on green. Upgrades I kind of leave in the middle. Operations kind of like low, and garrisons I kind of leave in the middle or high depending on how much territory I'm taking. The next thing over here is going to have your division design. It's going to show all your divisions. And if you click up top here, you're going to be able to see all the divisions that you currently have. You can create empty. Now, I will tell you this. When you create empty and you want to make a new division, it costs... that first one's 5, but if you're going to do like armor battalion, then do a mobilized to battalion after that, it's going to go up to 25 for that second one. But as you add on divisions, you're going to see the stats are going to increase, and the combat width is going to increase. The combat width you want to aim for in game is 20 width or 40 width. Those are the two combat widths that are most popular and should be used the most. It gives you the best chances in combat. 20 width is usually used more for defense, and 40 width is used more for pushing and attacking. Over here on the side, you have your support companies, which cost more, and you can see how they change the stats, do different things. And again, you have to have Army XP to add these, so I'm over the amount, I think, on that one I was doing, but right here I have 10, so I could add on like 2 motorized to this. And then I'm maxed out. If I try to add a third one, it tells me red. I can't do it. It's too expensive. I need more Army XP. Also, you can see the stat changes, the combat width increase, and everything else. The most important thing to look at is your organization. You want to keep your organization high. Anything, I mean, you don't want it to be, I would think, like below 40, in my opinion. You want to keep organization always above 40. And with infantry divisions, it should always be over 40. So the next tab is going to be your production tab. Now, production, the way it works is you have all your tabs right here. You can see right now we're making infantry equipment, towed artillery, support equipment, light tanks, inter-war fighters, motorized, and then we have our naval stuff down here. So if I add on more factories to here, you see the red bar pop up. That means that the efficiency cap has increased. So it did increase how much we produce automatically, so from 28 to 29, but it's going to get better as time goes on. It's going to gain production efficiency per day and get closer to that cap, which is going to make more rifles per day. Also, to add new, you would go over here and click the tab and you just select it, and then you can just add on more, etc. The other thing is creating variants. Like on armored vehicles, you can do increase the main gun, which I wouldn't do this on an armored car. Increase the engine speed, how fast it goes, reliability, things like that. Upgrading them can make them really powerful. You just kind of got to balance it out between reliability. You got to remember also, if you're increasing the engine max speed, then you do reliability, but then you do armor. Some of these take away from each other. Like the armor took all the way from the max speed, it just broke even. If I do main gun, we lower the max speed even more. Things like that, and that costs a lot of army XP. So if you're going to make changes like that, you want to make sure it's for what counts, and be careful with it. And usually it's going to take you a long time to make the final changes. The next, you're going to have armored vehicles, light tanks, same thing, create a variant. Up here is going to show you what you're producing, or what you have in stocks, like your resources. So you have plenty of aluminum, tungsten, chromium, things like that. If any of these are red, you can click on it. It's going to bring you over the trade tab, but I'll get back to that here in just a second. Next thing's going to be naval, same as everything else. You can increase it. It's going to increase how fast each one builds. You can put a certain number, or you can make it infinite, where it keeps making a bunch of these for forever. You also can select what ships you want to add. So if you want to add on a ship, these are going to be refit queues or repair queues, so you can increase or decrease this number. These are dockyards that will be focused on just repairing ships that are damaged in battle, or refitting them into a newer class if you're doing a refit. But other than that, that's pretty much all of the production. Well, there is this part, factory output, things like that. They're going to tell you like your efficiency cap, how much you're getting from like research and stuff, output, factory output, dockyard output, retention, how much you retain whenever you switch to something new, any growth bonuses you have, or any bomb vulnerability bonuses. So any bonuses from research are going to pop up top. This will tell you if there's any missing. So I only have 14 out of 15 military factories. We have 16 out of 19. 0 out of 2s are being, right now 0 out of 2 are being used for repair. That's pretty much everything in the production tab. And the same thing, I'll tell you your stockpile here too. So the next tab is going to be the construction tab. So on the construction tab, you're going to be able to pretty much select what you want. So you have infrastructure. Infrastructure is going to increase supply that travels out of the area, resources in that area, also travel speed, and things like that. So it's going to allow supplies, like if you upgrade your capital, it's going to allow some more supplies to reach other areas further away from your capital. Also increases the amount of resources you get out of that area. Another thing is on civilian factories, they're the most important thing to make. You always want to have a bunch of civilian factories, like in general. I try to always have like 30, 2 stacks of 15, no matter what nation I am. That way that I could always be building on 2 things at max speed if I have to. But usually you'll start the game out building a bunch of these, and you just click where you want them to go. Infrastructure also is going to give a bonus to construction speed. So it's very important to build in areas that have higher infrastructure first. That way you get that bigger bonus. Air bases. So air bases are going to be, I can actually click on the map and show you. So there's an air base right there. And if I upgrade it, it's going to go from 400 planes to 600 planes. Or if there's an area that doesn't have an air base, it'll put one down there and it'll be 200. Each state has an area where it's going to put down the air base no matter what. So you can't like specifically put it, but I mean, it's going to go down there. So that's air base, and that controls how many planes you can put in them. The next thing is going to be anti-air. So you can see here we got 2 out of 5, 5 out of 5, 2 out of 5. Anti-air is going to pretty much prevent. It's going to do damage to. It's going to do damage to aircraft, but it's also going to give a protection against enemy bombers. So if bombers are going to fail to bomb factories, meaning your factories aren't going to get damaged or whatever they're targeting, so they do have that bonus. Next, going to be radar stations. Radar stations give you a buff. They give you knowledge about enemy units. They're going to give your Air Force a buff because you can detect the enemy planes. It pretty much gives you a buff in general. And the higher the level, the better the buff and the bigger the range. So that means you'll be able to fight better air wars, and they do upgrade through the research tree. Next thing is military factories, which is the second important thing. So military factory, you just click on a spot, start building them. When these are done, They're instantly going to go over here. You can start assigning them. You can do a thing like this where it's 4 out of 10. So that means as they make, they're going to automatically fill into these slots, and they prioritize from the top down. So if you have it like this, but then you want this to be the first thing, instead of taking these off, you can just move this above it like that. The next thing on the list is going to be dockyards. Pretty self-explanatory. Same as military factories. They build your ships. So you build those. They have to be built near a coastline, obviously, for the ships to be built. And when the ships are built, they're going to populate to wherever you select them to be, which is going to be a naval base. And you can do that in the production tab and pick where they go. So if I go down here and I want it to be specifically right here, it's now going to specifically go to Lanark. The next thing on this list is going to be, oh, actually, it was like consumer goods. I forgot about this. A lot of people get confused by this. So right now it's set at 30%. That means that 30% of all of your civilian factories are going to have to be used for the people. That means you can't use them to build stuff, can't use them for anything else, can't use them to trade. They are just for the people. So it's always 30% starting out, or usually, depending on what nation you play. And this tells you right now we have 40. We're getting some from exports, some from our subjects, some from occupation. We're using 40, and 16 of those 40 are being used in consumer goods. This is a bonus on construction speed you get through research. And these are also prioritized. So if you want military factories focused on, you just move them up top. You can shift and left click, or just manually keep moving something all the way to the top. Traded goods would be civilian factories we're trading away. So an example of that, when we go to the trade tab, let's say tungsten was in a deficit. Let's actually make it that way real quick. I'm gonna lower everything down to 1. Let's see if we can make a deficit on tungsten. Dang, we still didn't make a deficit. Well, that'd be fine. We'll pretend there's a deficit. So let's say this is red and you don't have enough. You can click on any of these tabs, and when you click on it, it's going to tell you what countries have excess of this resource for trade and how many convoys it'll cost. Your best thing is to trade with someone who is A, you're not strengthening up an enemy, and B, maybe not using convoys just to save you some. So for example, we could trade with Soviet Union if we wanted to, because that kind of helps out them, and they'll eventually have to fight Germany, so it kind of helps them out. So they have 33 they can trade. We could do up to, every civilian factory is going to give us 1. So 1, 8, 2, 16, and it goes up. So if we do that, we click that, we're now trading with them. We're using 4 convoys needed for this trade, and we're now getting those resources. Another thing is on puppets. So if you have a puppet like British Malay and you need something, the puppets give you a resource amount of 80. So 1 factory equals 80 resource, which is a bunch. So that's always a good thing. So puppets first, but you gotta look here, it's using 88 convoys. So if you don't have 88 convoys, you might be in trouble, but for this instance, we're fine. And we're getting a whole bunch extra. And you'll see it popped up here. But you can do that for any of them. These tabs will tell you extracted, that's how much you're making. Imported, how much you're importing. Exporting, how much you're exporting or trading. Even if someone's not trading with you, you're always exporting something. It's based off your trade laws, and I'll eventually get to that. So, and these tabs all here, you can sort by all kinds of stuff, convoys per trade and stuff like that. So the next thing is going to be diplomacy tab. I'll be honest, I don't really use the diplomacy tab very much. I just think it's kind of, I don't know, it's not really that useful. I guess you could for flavor if you wanted to, but it'll tell you who likes you, their opinion of you, your opinion of them as a country, things like that. You can sort by major countries, axis, allies, different things, if you wanted to, but that's pretty much diplomacy tab, just a way. But I mean, most of this you can just click on the country itself. I mean, there's no point. Research. So research tab, very basic. These are bonuses toward research. You might get them through focuses. You might get them as you research stuff. Like for example, this one right here is going to add on 4%. So these bonuses are going to pop up. But on research, you just select what you need to do, which I covered in doing the chores, the basics. But you select what you're going to research, and then it's going to start happening. The next tab is going to be the intelligence agency tab, which will create an intelligence agency. Very simple. Click the button, and you can change the icon, change the name, create agency. It's going to use 5 civilian factories, and it's going to start making that. So while that's making, I'm going to go ahead and go to the decisions tab. So decisions are going to be always separated into what they are. There's going to be a whole bunch, and there's a whole bunch in the game that do a bunch of different things. Your basic one's going to be like improve working conditions, worker conditions, which will increase weekly stability, cost 5% more consumer good factories, and lower factory output by 10%. So if I use 100 and I do this, I'm now gaining weekly on stability, but I'm using more civilian factories in general, and I'm not producing as much stuff. But stability gives a bonus toward a bunch of stuff too, so it usually kind of pans out. I usually recommend doing that. You want your stability as high as it can get. Let's see. Okay, so this is done, and we're ready to recruit an operative. So when you finish this, it takes 30 days to recruit an operative. Click on the button, and you'll have a bunch of different operatives with different traits, origins, things like that. So I usually pick one with like this one, seducer trait. It's a good one. So you'll have your seducer operative, and you have different missions you can put them on. So counterintelligence means they stay at home, and if anybody tries to spy on you, they try to catch them. So they're defending. Build intel network would be like, example here, starting to build an intel network. If you want to do any operations in a country, you have to have an intel network. Next one is quiet intel network. Once you built it up, let's say to 100%, but you're not doing anything currently, you just leave it on quiet. That means that it's not active. So they can't get caught, or low chance of getting caught because they're not active. The next thing you can do is boost ideology, so I can increase their democracy by this much per day, so 0. And that's going to be tied to intel network. So if your intel network's at 100%, obviously boost propaganda would be higher, and so would propaganda, which lowers war support and stability. Root out resistance is going to be for areas you have occupied, like let's say over here, let's say this was like 20%, you throw them down, it's going to start, they're going to start lowering it down because they're rooting out the resistance. Control trade, you put these on a foreign nation. If you're wanting a nation to trade with you and not somebody else, maybe you could put that on there. It's going to start making them want to trade with you instead of everybody else. Diplomatic pressure. If you're doing a focus where you believe that the AI might not go with you, like for example, Kingdom of Hungary, when they want to get Austria, if they're trying to form Austria-Hungary and they're wanting to get them without a fight, you might do boost on them, and that diplomatic pressure is going to increase the chance of them saying yes to a focus or anything like that, a non-aggression pact or anything. It just kind of gives them a little bit of a bonus. Any operations you do, which I won't go too in depth because that's like an entire guide, they'll be listed here once your intel network's high enough in a country. So I see right there, they're listed, but you can't use them because they have the requirements. Tells you how many operatives you need on the mission. I mean, 3 operatives is pretty much guaranteed to have to be needed to do these kind of things, because you need 1 person to hold down the intel network, and you're gonna need 2 people for the actual missions. And these things are going to give you different bonuses, but I'll have to make an entire video on operations. It'll take a while. Let's go ahead and cover what's up top. So up top here, we have the political power. These are going to be used on everything here, and this is a good segue into this. So national focuses. These are what kind of guide your country down different paths in the game. You'll always want to be researching one of these or doing one of these focuses. So like, for example, home defense, 70 days. Usually they cost 70 days. Sometimes they cost 35. Usually it's 70. It'll tell you what it does, and it'll bring you further down the tree. So you just keep going, and just kind of keep building on it. Practice makes perfect. These down here, laws, government, research and production, military staff. They're all going to tell you what they do, but a lot of them are tied to war support. So for example, more than 10% war support, which we have, will increase our recruitable population from 1.50% to 2.50%. So it will increase that, that 1% extra. Same thing with trade. If we do free trade, 80% of our resources go to market. So that means 80% of everything we make, steel, aluminum, things like that, will go to market. But then we get bigger bonuses toward construction speed, things like that. Same way when you go the other way, less resources to market, but less bonuses. Civilian economy, most important one. Remember those consumer good factories, 35%, which I think we have something that lowers it down a little more, but 35% is the base value on this one. If we lower it down, it's going to be 30%. If we lower it down, it's going to be 25. And I'll tell you the other bonuses with it. War economy is usually the ideal one, unless you're a nation that has a large population. Like Germany doesn't really need war economy. They can go total mobilization pretty quick, but total mobilization gives you the lowest amount. So 10% of consumer good factories are going to be used for your people. The rest are all for your pretty much your gameplay. For building civilian factories, for building military factories, things like that. But the only thing it hurts is recruitable population by 3%. So then if you hear political advisors, these all depend on what you want to do. If you're changing to a different ideology, you might want to select, one of these other people, like communist support to increase communism in your country. Silent workout horse, political power gain 15%. War industrialist increases factory, construction speed for military factories, dockyards, and they're all going to have different bonuses. Elusive gentleman, if you're wanting that third slot, there's only 2 ways to get it. You either be in a faction and you're the head of the spies, which costs 50 political power, and you will get more spies depending on how large your faction is, or you use this, which will give you a third one. To get your second one, because earlier we only have one, you have to do 5 different upgrades. So if you do suicide pills, which decrease chance of getting caught and increases the chance of operatives ending their own life in order to not give up information, that kind of thing, which did happen. And then you'll have events that pop up like this as you play. France wants to join the Allies. Yes, obviously. So France is now in the Allies. Let's keep going down here. So we kind of covered all these. Some of these are tied behind focus trees. That's why they're grayed out, or certain requirements, like ruling party. Tanks. So medium, Vickers tank here, tank designer, reliability, soft attack, research speed. These all do about the same thing. They give some kind of buff and negative, and research speed buff. These are all buffs, but different buffs. And research speed, air, sea, land. Tanks specifically. Infantry equipment, artillery research, motorized. So if you're going to go mainly infantry, if you're wanting to go artillery, kind of bonus out there. Industrial research or electronics. Industrial is going to be everything in this tab, so increasing how much you produce, while electronics, everything in this tab, which is your research speed, radar, things like that. Theorist here. Okay, so on theorists you have a bunch of different one. The most common one I always use is going to be military theorist. This one has grand battle plan guy for that bonus for that doctrine, but this one just does land doctrine, research speed, 10%. The biggest thing is army experience. That way you're gaining something every day without having to train your troops and use up equipment to get some army XP. The best way to get army XP is going to be in war, or sending an attaché to another government when they're in war, like Spain or China or something. So let's go down here. Chief of Army, Army Offense, Army Maneuver, Army Defense. These all cost political power, 150. Air, Chief of Navy. These are all kind of self-explanatory, but now you know these are going to be bonuses that you apply in your game, considering how you're playing. Manage subjects, going to be show all the people that are puppets to you, what level of puppet they are, and then the autonomy. So if they're going up, that means they're getting closer to being free, or a dominion in this case, free up here. If they're going down, that means that they're getting closer to going down a level, and eventually you can annex them. But it's up to you if you want to do that. How you're going to get them down, the best way is just sending them a whole bunch of convoys. So trading them convoys, like sending it directly to them through Lend-Lease. The other way you're going to get them down is directly building on their territory, like infrastructure, civilian factories, things like that. But those are the 2 best ways to get them down. The other tab, exiled governments. If anyone's exiled in your democracy, it'll show their tab here. We don't have anybody right now. Occupied territories, any land we're holding. So like Belize, Botswana, 79%. When anything gets over 80%, we can now turn it into a puppet. If you choose to, it's up to you. Pretty much covers everything on this tab. These are spirits. Sometimes they're positive, sometimes they're negative, like this one. This is your ideology. We're currently Democratic. We're 99.63% and going up. These are the other parties in the country. We're Democratic. Next election. This is our current country leader. This is what we're currently researching focus-wise. Up top, you have political power, how much you're gaining per day. In any negative debuffs on that. Stability, war support, current manpower, what's in the field, what's free, Navy, air, garrisons, total. All your information's there in a pop-up. Factories, we have 76, 17 mil, 40 civ, 16 out of 19 on dockyards. Fuel, we're full on fuel right now. That means all of our silos are completely full, which are right here, fuel silos. And I know earlier I never covered these, but synthetic refinery, rocket sites, and then nuclear reactors. Then you have your land forts, coastal forts, naval base. Naval bases are where your ships are going to be based at and where you will launch naval invasions from. You also can convert factories from civilian to military or military to civilian, depending on your need. Up top we have fuel, how much we're gaining per day, our capacity, things like that, what our maximum consumption is. Convoys, how many convoys we have, how many we're using, what they're being used for. Command power. Command power is going to be used on, let me just show you here. It's going to be used on traits for generals. So if I assign this general and he unlocks any of these traits which you gain through combat, then I can click on them, and for 15 command power I can equip it to them. Also, if you're going to promote someone, you'll use 30. It'll make them a field marshal, from a general to a field marshal. The other use is going to be, I really don't have a front line right now. Let's just make one over here. There we go. So it's going to be force attack, last stand, staff office plan, increases planning speed, for defense, for attacking. These all give different bonuses, but they cost command power, and sometimes you want to use them and sometimes you don't. Army XP, how much we have, if we're gaining any, how much we're gaining per day. So if I go down here, equip this military theorist, we now show we're gaining 0.05 a day. Navy experience, you can train your navies, you can train your armies. These will also build up. So if I click train on army experience 0.064 a day. If I go to my Navy, click some of these boys, Naval Doctrine, 0.306 a day. So turn those off. Same thing with air. If I go over here, out exercises, they're now being trained up. And we're now producing 0.038 a day. So that covers everything here. That covers everything here. That covers the flag. Over here you have your speed of gameplay. So 5 is the highest, 1 is the lowest. Play whatever your preference is at. This right here is world tension. Some of your focuses are tied behind it, as well as like war support will go up as world tension goes up and things like that. Shows the planet above it. You can pick on it. You can actually see who's increased world tension, who has lowered world tension, things like that. Target music controller. You can look at the army tab. I don't really use these very often. You absolutely can if you want. Gives you just logistical a bunch of information about your army, pretty much. 36 divisions, 290 battalions. Navy tab. Air Force tab. It's a more dedicated view, pretty much. And theaters. These are all about organization. If you want to make a new theater or put it on priority, that means everyone in England right here is going to get the most. They're gonna get priority on reinforcements compared to any other theater like Africa or East Asia or something like that. And I think you can actually disband theaters. So, and down here, focus on this bottom right. If you pick this little arrow, it's going to show you all these different maps. So supply area, resistance, compliance, resource, diplomacy. They're all pretty self-explanatory. Factions, players, if there are any players, and if you're playing a multiplayer game, infrastructure, population, where is the densest populated areas are, or lowest, ideology, who's what. See all these democratic nations, terrain, what kind of terrain is around. Is it forest? Is it plains? Is it mountains? Things like that. Then over here you're gonna have, and these are, I guess, like fast on your tool tab. Instead of doing the arrow, go right through them. Operatives map mode, strategic air mode. You're gonna have your strategic navy map mode. And all these tabs are how you separate stuff out. So if you want to mess with your navy, you pick the navy tab. Want to mess with the army, you pick the army tab. Want to mess with the air, you pick the air tab. So pretty basic on that. Same thing with spies. You want to see your spies only. You don't want to see all the other stuff. Pick spies. This will stay unit countries between all or players. So you see other nations' units or not. Unit color between country or allegiance. So they have their own country colors, or you can have them set towards just allegiance colors. Battle plans for everybody. So you want to see your allies' battle plans compared to yours, you absolutely can. Fog of war, toggle on or off. You want fog of war on, day or night loop. If you want it looped or not want it looped, you can have it looped. That way as you play, it'll go from day and go night and go day and go night. Radars, you want radars displayed on the map. But yeah, that's everything down here. Search bar is like if you're looking for a specific territory, like this one right here. Let's say Alaska. We're just like, where's Alaska? Like, I just don't know where. I can't go spell Alaska apparently either. Alaska pops up. You pick on it. It brings you straight to Alaska. So yeah, a little search bar. If you're having trouble finding something that popped up in an event or in your focus tree and you're confused, you can type it in. And that should be about all of the extremely basics on all the icons. If anyone has any questions or comments or concerns, please let me know. Other than that, thank you for watching Dassbear Guide.